Dwars van Vlaanderen, or Across Flanders, is a one-day semi-classic that signifies the start of the 10-day build-up to the Tour of Flanders, Belgium's biggest bike race and one of the most important on the world calendar. For many, this is a first outing on the cobbles and hills of the traditional heartland of cycling, and an opportunity to get a feel for how to ride many of the crucial sections of road which will be used a week on Sunday at the Ronde. This UCI Europe Tour race comes just days after the most testing monument in recent memory, a Milan-San Remo disrupted by freezing temperatures, snow and ice, leaving the composition of the race field here in doubt until just hours before Wednesday morning start. Late withdrawals included former winners Sylvain Chavanel, Matty Breskel and Australian Classics man Heinrich Hausler, all of whom had failed to recover sufficiently from their weekend exertions. Pre-race favourites included British champion Ian Stannard, Maxim Glinski, Geraint Thomas, Juan Antonio Fletcher and last year's winner Nicky Terpstra, who as well as a strong-looking Sky squad probably had the strongest team backing in the peloton. In the end, 176 riders, 23 teams in total left Rousselard to head to the true centre of Flemish racing. Well, these are supposed to be spring classics, but as winter outstays its welcome, today's race has rain, maybe even snow, which combined with hills and cobblestones could well lead to unpredictable results. So a flat first 93 kilometres sees the racing rhythm develop, leaving the start in Rousselard and immediately heading towards Waregem, the traditional finish town for this race. Early attacks are likely to be well marshalled and a stable break formed, but nerves build as the riders approach the new Kwaremont, the first climb. The real action beginning around 110 kilometres into the race, with 3 sections of cobbled roads and 12 more climbs, the last of them peaking just 7 kilometres before the finish line. So the weather wasn't playing ball. The racers certainly were. They want to keep warm on a horrible day such as this. And this is the complete profile. Just under 200 kilometres, as I said, leaving Rousselard, heading through Harelbeke into Waregem for the first time. And then on to the 13 Hellingen, or big cobbled climbs, with 3 sections of flat cobblestones as well. Many of them being used in the Tour of Flanders in just 10 days' time. So great opportunity to practice for what was coming up. After the first few hours, the race took in some pretty flat racing. We join the action with over 70 kilometres to go. So 77 kilometres left, a brief respite from the climbs of Berendries and Leiburg. 4 climbs now out the way, 9 remain. Valkenburg will be the next. That comes up in just a couple of kilometres' time. No radios out there either today. UCI Europe Tour, World Tour races, the only ones to keep radios at the moment. So plenty of unpredictable racing, as some of those attempting to stay inside the back. Back up the front. So onto the 540-metre-long Valkenburg. Gradients at the very least at 8.1%. Rising pretty sharply in parts as well. It is a unique collection of little hills and climbs around this part of the world that make it famous. Rest of the year, just streets with houses on. In the spring, they are temples. The 2 groups up the front. Peloton a long, long way behind, though, and this is starting to develop into an important group of riders. Split up into 2 at the moment, but of course they'd be a lot stronger if they could still ride together, I'm sure. 5 riders behind, still attempting to bridge the gap, 13 at the moment, but 1 minute and 16 back to the peloton for here. Now then, the latest attempt to get out of the peloton. Perhaps riders starting to realise that it's now very, very important to keep pressure up here. The gap has grown all the way to 1.5 minutes. It's Agir Dezere having a go as the top 2 groups come together, or at least almost, with Heyman leading them at the front. There's Sarah Montins next to him for IAM. Swiss-backed team with a heck of a lot of money behind them. As we move on to our next section of difficulty. We have a crash at the back of the peloton. A couple of Movistar riders involved. Europcar having problems as well, as we see a couple of those going into the ditch. Not good to see. Orica Green Edge with a man down as well. And this is where it all gets a little silly. Bus in the way, everything having to narrow up on those already narrow country roads. And the man who went down was Ben Hermans. On our way up the Eichenberg now. Maximum 10% gradient. It's not the hardest, but it is one of the longest of the climbs. Well over a kilometre. The good news is for those in the break that there's just that section on the left-hand side where you can stay off the cobbles. The peloton probably won't have the same luxury. So look at this, all stretched out. Long, long way. And this is where the peloton will fracture up. Things will get messy. And of course, the race most likely to be decided from a breakaway group. Which group, though? That is the big question. We have more problems here. Riders down, riders on the road. There's a Garmin rider, and that does not look good. Katusha rider involved. And that's not something we want to see from the Garmin rider. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. The Katusha rider is the number 47, Gatis Mukulis. Astana have problems as well with two of their riders involved. Just look at the mud around that. But extremely worried after seeing images of the Garmin rider down and not moving at all. I'll tell you the rider it is. It's Jack Bauer. In the meantime, at the front of the race, which is a little secondary until we get news on Jack Bauer. Now the short Steenbeek and Dries, 300 metres long. It's between 5.3 and 6.7% gradient. Climb number 7 of 13 in this race. But the harder stuff still to come when we get to the Oude Kvaremont and the Paderberg, up to 20%. So back to 53 seconds, the gap between those out in front. A couple of groups in between. And those chasers who were caught, including Vauclair, who helped bridge that gap, are now trying to get away again. Well, out on the course in the meantime, a group of 3 riders formed a new break. They were Stegmans, Heyman and Sarah Montins. 28 seconds now between Group 2, the chasing riders, and those 3 riders up front. 46 back to this peloton, which is now stretched out and is putting the hammer down. Coming up to a decisive section in the race. 45 k's to go. We have the Oude Kvaremont and the Paderberg. 20% gradients. In the meantime, these guys have to find the fuel to keep going from somewhere. So onto the Nochterberg. 1.6 kilometers long, between 5.3 and 13.3% gradient. Again, not the hardest climber. The next 2 following this are going to be pretty decisive in the race, I'm sure. Here we go. Ian Stannard is getting interested. And is that because Fletcher perhaps has gone? Not sure, but there is a Vacansoleil rider being put up to the front. Stannard making sure that he's involved, and Julien Fouchard's little dig isn't going to last too much longer. Heyman, in the meantime, getting some decent distance on Stegmans and Sarah Montins at the moment. On the way up the Nochterberg, 8th out of 13 Hellingen. They're the little climbs that characterise this Flemish racing. And look at the people on the top. Awful, nasty weather. Middle of the week on a Wednesday as well, but people still find time and make the effort to cheer on their heroes. Heyman then off the front. This is his move. It has been made. We mentioned the various tactics that Sky could throw at it. This is just one of them. So Heyman's his first clear play of cards from Sky. No surprises, he's standard in the group behind. 19 seconds behind Heyman at the minute. The men who were in his company for quite a while. Champion. On the Oude Kvaremont, 2.2 kilometers long. 3.6 to 11.6. The big gradients come, of course, on the next climb, the Paterberg. And it is cobbled pretty nastily, as you can see. They're old cobbles, they're sticking out, they're big, they're nasty. And the group is about to be swallowed up. This is Heyman now. And Van den Berg at the front, putting in a dig. Remember, he went away on coddles in the Oplop. He went away with Luca Paolini and was beaten in the sprint by the Italian into Ghent. Now Heyman might be struggling here. Look behind, because not too far away from him is Steiner Van den Berg, the man who was only brought in yesterday to replace Sylvain Chavanel. Heyman is being caught. Look behind, he knows it now as well. May as well be wise to wait and make sure he can work together with Van den Berg. 33 kilometers to go, and it's all still to be decided at Dwars van Vlaanderen. And this is the group behind. There's Maxim Iglinski, who will not want to lose touch here. Oscar Gatto's in it as well. Tommy Veuclair in the green was the man looking behind. There's Mice as well, another Omega Pharma quick-step rider, Selvaggi, Kukler and Veuclair. So Heyman choosing to stay off the cobblestones at the moment on the Paterberg, between 12.9% and 20.3. This is where it gets hellish. This is where it gets steep. The cobbles are there as well, and this is the climb that could well decide which group of riders stays away. And as you'd expect, let's say it's heavily populated on the Paterberg. Well, they'll be up here in 10 days' time. Not quite the Ronde just yet, but there is plenty going on up there. This is fandom heartland in cycling. Look at the weather out there. It's absolutely freezing, about 1 degree at the minute, and supporters everywhere. So they're now 3 up front. Another helping hand. Oscar Gatto can move quickly. Remember, there's no Italian ever won this race. Now, is that these guys sitting up? Quick look behind. Perhaps they've decided that there's some energy to be saved. Let's see. It looks as though that's the case, just rolling on. Still with 3 more climbs to go, another cobbled section. There are plenty of other places where the attacks can come. A 33-second gap back to this group. Whatever happens, you get the feeling it's going to be fought out between either this group just behind, including Geraint Thomas, and the one in front at the moment. The rest of the peloton, well, I think you can almost forget them. Here we go, it's cobblestone time. Onto the Varenstraat, 2 kilometers long here. But there's not only cobbles, there's been melting snow, there's rain, there's mud. It's pretty horrible, as you can see. And it's going to be a real test of not just physical, but mental ability here as well. 20 kilometers to go. We'll need to keep that fuel in. Now then, Veuclair out onto the pedals, and here goes Tommy Veuclair. He's been threatening a dig for the last kilometre or two. This time not managing to fully get away. Once more he'll try. Stannard attempting to stay close to his wheel. At the top of the Holstraat. And now just one more climb, the Norkeberg. No more cobbled sections to come either. It has been a hard, hard race. Not only tough bodies required, but extremely tough minds too. On we go then to the final climb, half a kilometre long, the Norkeberg, 5.7 to 6.7. cobbled all the way, and the cobbles on in fantastic state. There is a small gutter at the right-hand side, as you can see. Some of the riders choosing to go on the pavement as well. Any which way you can. So off the cobbles they go. As it's Tommy Vauclair's turn. Tommy Vauclair has a go. Stannard realises that either he didn't have the legs or he'll save his gas for a little later on. First dig happened, and it's now Vauclair's turn. Vauclair with about 20 metres. Oh, Vauclair staying there for the minute. Still got to stay out for 6 kilometres more. It's more or less flat into the line here. And I can tell you the last 200-300 metres or so are on a slight descent. 12 seconds for Thomas Vauclair. Into the last 4Ks. As I said, almost flat to the finish. 13 building his lead here, and look at the pain on his face. Really going deep here is Vauclair. And they've had to go deep all day to stay in contention. The weather making everything just that little bit worse. There's those who rode at the weekend in San Remo, the likes of Stannard at the back here, and Gatto. And that will have been the hardest day that many of them will have ever had on a bike. Not quite that difficult today, but certainly the conditions not making it easier. Now 14 seconds. A look behind. Remember, he has no communication with the team car in his ears, no race radios here, because it's a Europe Tour event, not World Tour. It's more of the old-fashioned racing that Vauclair is a self-declared fan of. 3 Ks now to go to the line. Well, the fans will start to build up on the road as we're going to Waregem, this town in West Flanders. Not too far away from the border into Wallonia, French-speaking region of Belgium. Still no dots in the front here, and the gap is being allowed to grow here to 17 seconds. Somebody has to make a move quickly. It's looking very, very good for Thomas Vauclair. Iglinski at the front, followed by Van den Berg in second in the Omega Pharma Quick-Step kit. But it's former two-time French champion Vauclair at the minute, who is out there on his own. Iglinski for Astana. There's Bozic in third place as well for the Kazakh team. Selvaggi is the rider for Vacansoleil. But it's Europe Car and Thomas Vauclair who are best placed here. The advantage going down to 15 seconds with 2 kilometres to go. Not far away now, Vauclair, and it's looking excellent for him. Approaching the last kilometre to go sign, starts to hear the applause of the crowd. Thomas Vauclair, 1 mig more right turn to do. Van den Berg chasing, and I can tell you here at the finish line, the first cars and motorbikes cross. They are close. Stannard as the pace picks up behind Gatto. It's a now or never attempt to catch Tommy Vauclair for those behind. This would be a huge win for him. Shake of the head, he knows that he might not have it. It's going to be tight, 13 seconds. They have him in sight. Excitement, everybody on the edge of their seats here. Vauclair again out of the pedals. In the meantime, it's the strong pull of the peloton chasing behind, a very small one at that, by Steiner van den Berg, trying to catch the solitary man in front. 10 seconds now. It is still possible for these guys behind. Iglinski out on the pedals. The pace being pulled by Van den Berg, and they have him in their sights with just over a kilometre to go. Oh, is Vauclair going to run out of gas here? I fear it may be the case. 9 seconds with a kilometre to go. Has to find something extra from somewhere, and Stannard in the meantime is making his own dart on the left, followed by Bozic and Gatto. That means that Van den Berg is going to struggle to stay on the back. He really is out of gas. Iglinski's there. Heyman somehow has kept pace with them. It's one more left turn when they get down here into the final finishing straight in the last 300 or 400 metres or so. Vauclair looks behind. Another shake of the head, another painful facial expression. Stannard leading them at the front for Sky. Here comes that big left turn now, onto that right-hand side of the dual carriageway, and they are on the final finishing straight. Vauclair out of the pedals, giving it his absolute all for what would be a very, very special win for him. Inside 200 metres now. Stannard sits up, it's Oscar Gatto that's trying to catch him, and it's Vauclair who's desperately trying to stay away into the last 50 metres or so. Vauclair, but it's going to be Oscar Gatto. What a win for the Italian. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Well, Tommy Vauclair will be distraught with that. He thought he would have had it, but look at the delight on the face of Oscar Gatto and Luca Scinto's Vini Fantini team. An amazing day for them. And this is how he won it. With less than 100 metres to go, Vauclair still has a good advantage. Gatto has picked Stannard's wheel and got. And in the end, wow, we're talking a couple of bike lengths at least over Vauclair. I think Buzic is second, Heyman looks third. The face of the Frenchman here again looking behind. What does he have left? Does he have anything left? The answer is no. As Gatto takes it. Celebration time to boot as well. It's been a horrible day for most riders out there. But this man will remember it better than most. Time for celebration whilst everybody else counts the cost of physical and mental, everything they left on the road. Celebration for the Italian team.
Oscar Gatto, complimenti, il primo italiano a vincere attraverso le Fiandre. Come ti senti?
Ma è un'emozione veramente grande, anche perché ci
I'm delighted to be the first Italian to win this race.
Le corse qui in Belgio, secondo me, sono le più belle corse.
I really wanted to do a good effort up here in the Cobble
E
Classics.
la mia squadra comunque non ha
For me, these are the most beautiful races in the world.
Di fare queste corse.
Even though we're a smalls team,
Volevo, insomma, anche
we showed today that we deserve to be at this races, I think.
Ci siamo. E essere anche il primo italiano.
So I really wanted to demonstrate something to people, to the people who invite us, that we're here and we can do a good job.
Sì, l'ultimo chilometro, ormai pensavo che Vauclair arrivasse.
Well, the last kilometre was absolutely amazing. I actually thought that Vauclair probably had it. So I took Stannard's wheel, who was great at the weekend in Milan-San Remo. Thought it would be the wheel to have. He went a little early. I kept on that wheel. And then I think maybe I left a little bit late to go,
it was
but
really,
in the end,
really hard.
just about did
and we
it.
knew that from the start, and everybody in the bus said, you have to race, you just have to race. If you, in weather conditions like this, if you wait, you don't have a chance. So today was just race.
Thank you all.
Oui, très dommage, mais bon, c'est la course. Hein. J'ai 50 derniers mètres, j'ai eu les crampes parce que j'étais au maximum. Voilà.
J'étais fatigué dans les derniers kilomètres.
The last 100 meters I cramped up. There you
Bah
go.
oui, hein, très fatigué, mais je sais pas, j'ai vu derrière.
Of course. Very tired.
Je pensais que c'était bon. J'ai continué à appuyer et j'ai vu Stannard qui roulait, je sais pas pour qui. Alors après, j'ai eu des crampes dans les 100 derniers mètres, mais voilà, je pouvais pas aller au bout, trop difficile.
I couldn't do it or go and give too much today. So Gatto pounces on Vauclair to pick up his first win of the season, and a cracking one it was too. It's victory number 13 to add to the palmarès of the 28-year-old rider who is helping to push along Luca Scinto's Vini Fantini Selle Italia team towards new achievements. A moment of victory and celebration for him, but at Buzic, who was second, and Heyman, who came in third for Sky on the podium. Final confirmation of those results then. Gatto, Buzic and Heyman with Selvaggi and Vauclair making up the top 5. Mees, Kukela, Iglinski, Stannard and Van den Berg rounded out the top 10 of the 2013 Dwars van Vlaanderen, the 68th running of the race. Rare to see Belgians outside the top 5 in this race. Every couple of years at least there's usually a winner. 50 times before today they picked up the victory. So next on the Flanders Classics calendar will be Ghent-Wevelgem. So be sure to join us for the next step on the road to the Ronde van Vlaanderen, the Tour of Flanders. From me, Rob Hatch, and the rest of the team, goodbye, and we'll see you then.